Hello, Kayci. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate Black History. I'm also excited to celebrate your last semester at Suffolk University. I can't believe that you're graduating already. It's like just yesterday that you were first year. You just got here, but now look at you. So it's an honor to be able to interview you today, and we will get started. If you could please tell me a little bit about yourself and how you identify.
So yeah, my name is Kayci. I'm a senior here, studying philosophy, with double minor in Black Studies and Women and Gender Studies. And a little bit about me, here at the university, I'm the president of the Black Student Union, as well as I'm a TA. I'm a part of McNair. Personally, I go by she, her pronouns. I'm originally from Boston, born and raised, right in Dorchester. So this is literally like Suffolk is my neighborhood, basically.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I identify as a cis woman, a queer woman. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. And we're celebrating Black History Month, and I'm curious, what does it mean to you and why is it important?
I think what it means to me has especially changed. I think with all of the rhetoric that's going around and that it's not important, it's divisive. I think people go with this narrative that because we're celebrating and highlighting one group, that means that all the other groups are not important. And I think that's completely false. I think as a country, we have gone centuries and centuries of saying that African Americans, specifically Black Americans, are the lowest of the low and not celebrating them at all. So Black History Month just reminds us that there's something to be celebrated. African Americans have given a lot to American culture, that they have survived and persevered despite centuries and centuries of oppression and systemic racism and everything in and above, where I think Black History Month kind of says not only have they survived that, but like they continue to find joy and community and happiness um, within each other. And I think especially at BSU, one of the things, especially like with everything that's going on and how crazy it is, like one of the things that we're really much like stamping like in this February is the joy and community and just being happy, because you pick up our phones and our phones are literally like we're dying every day. So I think Black History Month is just about Black joy and Black happiness and Black excellence and every positive adjective that you can like think of.
I couldn't agree more. So how has your cultural identity motivated and supported you in your studies and career goals?
I think it took a little bit to like kind of find my way and how it motivated me. Um, I came from a high school where a lot of the population looked like me. Um, that spoke like me, everything and above. So I kind of was like, oh, like this is normal, like I'm around like other Black people, I'm around other Caribbean people. Um, so I was just like, oh, this is just really normal. And then I came to Suffolk and it was like a culture shock coming to a PWI, and I was like, oh, like this is actually the normal. So at first, my culture, my heritage, my identity, I was really much like, ooh, I felt like I was like being like the loud, boisterous, like Black woman. Like I thought that that's how like people perceived me. Because again, like in my high school, like that was completely normal. Everyone like spoke the same exact way. So when I came and I was like acting like myself and doing everything, I was like, oh, like people are looking at me like I'm crazy. So then like I kind of like went into my shell a little bit. I kind of like was like a lot more reserved because I was like, I don't want to like draw attention to myself. I don't want to like do all that. And then I got involved with BSU and I found more POC students on campus, and then kind of brought that back out of me again, just being like very like loud, boisterous. And I think a lot of the POC students on Suffolk's campus are very much tied to their identity and that they're proud in it. And especially when you're with proud people, that makes you proud yourself. Um, so not only was I proud of my identity, but then that also like made me like just more proud in like my place on campus, and that I belonged here and that I deserved to be here. And I think that only just more positively affected my coursework because I was sitting here like I'm here, like I put my stamp on here. Um, so I think like especially like when I was more reserved, I wouldn't talk. I would just be sitting in the back. But then like once I like started to find that groove, I was a lot more like I'm here, you know? So yeah.
Well, I like the you that is present and the you that is in front. We love that part of you, Casey. So I'm glad that you can show every part of you because that is something that BSU loves about you and the students who look up to you as well. So if you're who you are, it makes it easy for them to also feel like they can be who they are. Your LinkedIn bio describes you as a passionate educator, empowering communities, and lifelong learner. How have these values shaped your experiences as a student and your involvement in the community?
Yeah. I'll kind of take it like one at a time. So I think like um one like the lifelong learning, I think especially like once like people start to grow up, people get stuck in this mindset of like, oh, well, I know what I know and I don't want to know anymore. And I think like the part of just like evolution and continuously growing is learning from the people around you. There's always something that you can learn from somebody else, whether positively or negatively. I think especially when people have negative interactions with other people, they're like, I'm going to completely distance myself from that. But I think there's also something to learn from those interactions and something to learn from just those negative experiences as well as the positive ones. So I think just that lifelong learning is how I grow and how I evolve as a person, whether that be personally or like professionally. Um, and then the empowering communities, I think being a Black queer woman in America, especially like there's just so many things that are happening within like my communities that I'm in that it's a disservice for me not to empower those communities. It's a disservice for me not to speak about the things that are happening. Because there's people that are in positions in which they cannot. So the privilege that I have, especially being at an institution where I feel like I very much made my stamp and like I'm gonna talk about things that I don't like. um, that I can like speak about things that my colleague, like even like the other students at Suffolk, they might not like, and I'll be like, let me take a mental note and let me speak on it. So I think it's just that because the a lot of things just like grow out of fear. Silence is like grows out of fear, and then that's how things become normalized, and then that's how like we get into positions in which people are continuously oppressed. So I think just empowering communities and making sure that everyone's able to speak, not just myself, is important. And I think being a passionate educator is really much like rooted in like everything that I do. Um, being a TA and also being like the president has put me in like places where I can speak on things, and just give the wisdom that I've gotten from other people, give the lessons that I've gotten from other people. Um, so yeah, it's all about like I'm very much big on resource sharing and information sharing, and just making sure that other people have like the resources that they need, the other things that they need, so that they can then give that to somebody else. Because once that information is isolated and just one person is like hoarding it, then everything just falls down. So I'm like, no, let's all resource share, let's all information share. Um, I think that's at the very core of who I am. I'm just like, let's all share resources and let's all share information.
I'm glad to hear it. What has inspired you in taking on this leadership with the BSU, and what impacts do you want to leave on the organization and the members?
This is so crazy because I'm leaving and like
No.
months. I'm like, oh, this is so crazy. It hasn't even set in yet, but the reason why I got involved with BSU, I was like an in and out member, like my first like year and a half. I would go if like my friends dragged me, but I didn't have like a personal connection with anyone on the e-board or just like anyone who was a regular member. So I just wasn't really involved. And then, um, everything with the Black Studies program happened. So for context, Dean Edie Sparks came in, I think September of 2022 or 2023, whatever. It doesn't matter. But she came in and she basically wanted to change the program to ethnic studies. And fun fact, I was the first person that heard about it because I had become really close with Assistant Dean Marjorie Salvadon, who was a professor of history or language at that time. Um, so she was like, "Hey, do you want to meet this dean in like a meeting in like early October?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So then she told me these like ideas and proposed ideas. And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting. I don't think that's gonna go over well in the school community, but hey, what do I know?" And I actually knew that this information before BSU, before anyone in BSU found out, just because of those personal connections that I had. Um, and then once it got a hold of BSU, they were like, who is that girl that knew before us? Like, who is that? And I will never forget, I was in Samia eating lunch between my classes. And a member of BSU, who is now like one of my really close friends, comes up to me. He goes, "Your name is Kayci, right?" I said, yeah, why? What's going on?" I said, "What are you talking about? What is going on?" He was like, "You were in a meeting with Dean Sparks. You knew about Black Studies. How did you know about Black Studies?" Like literally pressing me. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "I was just in a meeting. I just know Professor Salvadon. Like she just told me to come along." And then I kind of got like mob swept into BSU and I kind of became like a pseudo executive member because they did not have a good relationship with the administration, especially Dean Sparks at that time, just because of everything that was happening with the Black Studies program. So I was kind of like this liaison. I would hear from Dean Sparks and I would go back and I would tell the e-board members, they would tell me what they think, and I would kind of like set up these things. Um, and then that's how I got involved with BSU. So right off the bat, it was like this advocate type of role, and then I became vice president and then president. Um, and I think, to be honest, the legacy that I want to leave on BSU is I think I think like in the past, BSU has kind of gotten pigeonholed into this like we only care about serious topics. We're not lighthearted, we're not fun. You come here to work, you come here to have serious topics, and you come here to learn about your career. And it's like that's one aspect. But I think there's this other aspect that I'm starting to explore this past year in which we're really finding the joy and the happiness of the Black community here at Suffolk. Really trying to incorporate other identities that are not just the Black hetero um, identity, but really trying to incorporate how other groups within the Black community have really been affected by the things that are going on, and just creating this like well-rounded idea of what BSU looks like. Um, So yeah, hopefully that is a legacy that I have put, and hopefully that is what is shown. I think again, everyone knows what's going on in the world. Everyone knows like what is happening. I think BSU and the legacy that I really wanted to have is a safety net and an escape for Black students. Um, because again, you can talk so much about what's going on in the world in the political and social sense. But what happens when students are now feeling depleted? Like their energy is depleted, like they have absolutely no care for anything else, they're feeling defeated. I feel like now that's where BSU is starting to catch some students. Like, and we're starting to catch them and kind of hold them tight and basically like, I feel the exact same way. Let's be sad together, but in a joyous way, you know? So I think now I'm very much illuminating that. And I want that to be the legacy. Hopefully it's been translated that way. Hopefully.
You know, only time will tell. You can only do the best that you can right now, and you have no idea months from now, who's going to come up to you and say, Kayci, you really provided a space for me to just be myself and be happy with others. So keep doing what you're doing. As a student leader, you talked a little bit about this already. How has social capital that's connecting our relationships with people both within and beyond professional settings influenced your academic and career path?
I think it's influenced like tremendously. I think especially starting from freshman year to now, um, my goals and what I want to aspire to be in terms of a career and a professional life has really like gone like this, you know? Like I came into Suffolk with a plan. I was like, I'm gonna do this, and a third. I want to be this. I thought I was gonna go to law school. I thought I was gonna double major in law, you know? And then that obviously didn't happen. I took one law class. I dropped out in 2 weeks. I said, this is not for me, you know? So I think having the social capital and those networks kind of gives you a nice bouncing board, or like a nice board to kind of go to and say, I'm thinking about doing this. How do I get there? You know, or it's like, I'm thinking about doing this. Does this sound like a good idea? And obviously, some people are going to be like, that's not a good idea, but you also have to trust your own instinct and your own intuition. Um, I've heard that people are like, don't do that. And I'm like, oh, I kind of want to do that, so I'm still going to do it. But I'm going to take your advice like with a grain of salt, you know? So I think having that social capital just helps giving that nice like community in which like I can go to. There's specific people that I can go to where I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm thinking about doing that. How do I do it? Because I think especially like within an academic institution, the privilege that we all have is that there's someone that's already done what you're trying to do,
Sure.
you know? So it's like, as someone who wants to go into education, there's educators all around me. You know, there's educators that have gone through many different like walks of life in terms of like what high school, grad school, whatever, if they have loans, if they don't have loans. So it's all about just like kind of finding the resources there. Um, yeah. Yeah, everyone has already done, or not art, I won't say already, but everyone has done things that I aspire to do. So it's like it's a disservice for me to like it's kind of like taking the easy road, you know? I'm like, why like do it all by myself and not knowing versus like me just ask someone like, hey, how did you do it? And I'm like, oh, that's smart. I should probably do it like that too, you know?
Yeah, but that's the whole point of it. The whole point of it is that you learn and you
Yeah.
build a roadmap from that knowledge of learning, right? And you're also doing the thing on the other end, the same way that you are giving a roadmap to the students who are also looking up to you now. So you're learning and you're giving. So hey, that's how you build community
Yeah.
by having that kind of knowledge right there. I am curious, do you have mentors? If you have mentors, how did you get one, and what's the best part of having a mentor?
Yeah, so I would say I have mentors that are like in two different like categories. I have like the professors here who I see as mentors and that have really helped me. Like they're the people that I went to for grad school recommendations. There are people that have helped me with like my academic research, being at McNair. There are people that have looked over like writing samples for me. So I say I have mentors that are like professors, and then I have like the more like professional goals that I have. I would say that a place that has really helped me is McNair, the first generation office. Um, I think that everyone on the floor is a mentor to me because I literally spend like so much time there. I think especially someone who's a first generation student and um, really aspiring to go to grad school. I didn't know how grad school worked. I didn't know how like the financial situation like looked for grad school. I just thought that everyone just paid out of pocket, if I'm being completely honest. So, um, being a part of McNair and just kind of having this like door open for me in terms of what it looks like to go to grad school, to kind of like envision myself in places in which I've really only seen old white males be in. And then I'm like, there's me. Um, so yeah, I would say like the professors and like that mentorship and that partnership, it really comes from just being nice to them. Faculty go through a lot, especially like professors, they go through a lot. So just being nice to them and just seeing which ones like really click and which ones really vibe with you. Um, there's been a lot of times where I've just like spent like an hour or so like talking to professors, just kind of learning their life as well as like learning mine. and kind of just like building up that that dialogue and that type of connection where in the times in which like I do need a what do you call it, like a recommendation or something, I automatically am like, oh, I know exactly who to go to. And I know like this person's gonna say, yeah, absolutely. I just talked to her the other day. So it's things like that. I do need to catch up with them. This semester has been so crazy, so I haven't had time to. But so yeah, I would say those like one-on-one personable like relationships with professors, as well as like finding like the centers and like the places, like the hubs on campus that really um work. I would say another one is CSDI and B. I would say B has been like really like instrumental in like um helping me just along the way. I was also like B's TA. So like we like know each other on like a well-rounded level. There's been many a times where I'm like sitting in CSDI and I'm like telling her about my life and everything that's happening. Um I'm also like, BSU needs money. Please, please spare a couple change. And she's done that, because again, we built up that personal relationship where she's like, I know you're asking me not to like rob me, but it's more of like, this is a idea that you have that I can help to get to. Um, so it's been really helpful to have these spaces. I think for a lot of students, it's just how to find that. And I think that goes through a lot of trial and error because there was places in which I went on campus and I only went to them for one time and I said, "Oop, this is not for me. I don't like it." So it's just like that continuous trial and error and trying to find your physical space on campus is really hard, but at the same time, it's worth it once you do find it.
It's like every other relationship, right? You have to test it out to see which one welcomes you and provides that space for you to be yourself. What are some challenges that you have faced as a leader advocating for Black students on campus, and how have you navigated those challenges?
One challenge that like I've really at first it was really hard for me to like digest and kind of come to terms with, but then I realized, like it is what it is the idea that like some people don't think that your advocacy is enough. Some people don't think that like what you're doing is enough. You need to do more, you need to do more, you need to do more. And one of the things at first it's really hard to hear that, because you're sticking with what you know and you're like, I feel completed and I feel good about what I'm doing. So then when someone says, "Oh, that's not enough, you need to do more," it's like oh my God, am I like not doing what I think I'm doing? It's like a personal attack. And at first it was like such a personal attack on my character because I was like, I felt it, I was like, geez, am I not like the person that I thought I was? Um, so now I just realize that it's just two different ways to go about it, and that in and of itself is okay. There's always going to be another person that's doing more in terms of what their advocacy looks like, or there's people that are doing less. So I think, especially with advocating on behalf of people and on behalf of yourself, just making sure that you are following your own code, you are following your own rules and values and beliefs. And if people think that that's less, then I'm just like, okay, it's okay. You're gonna be the one to do more, and that's okay you know so yeah, I think that was a really hard lesson for me to learn, because again, I was very much like, my mind goes like, oh, if someone says I'm doing less, my mind is like, you're not doing anything at all, and that's not good. So I most definitely was like, you know what, that's my own way of going about it, and that in of itself is okay.
That is very insightful. Can you share a moment during your time as BSC president or vice president that you were particularly proud of, or a time that you did something that reinforced the importance of this work?
um Something that I'm continuously proud of is our African diaspora fashion show. Um, because I think it's just a culmination of months of hard work. That the show is usually at the end of this freshman year, the end of the fall semester. We usually have it this year, we had it at the end of November. In past years, we've had it in the beginning of December, just usually before finals. And right from September, maybe even the summer, we're thinking about what models, what designers, what entertainment, you know? So I think it's just months and months and months of hard work. And we're also bringing in people that are from Boston, people that are of the community within the Black community and in Boston. And just having those networks and having those people that are like, yeah, like I'll do it. And they all do it for free. So like that's even more of like a thing that's like it's just crazy to think about. And this year we did it at Artists for Humanity. So it was our first time doing it outside of Suffolk's campus because there was just such a great need for like more and more tickets. And that in and of itself was stressful, dealing with an outside venue. You're not at Modern Theater. You got to pay for it. You got to figure out how to fill seats. You got to figure out how to do this and a third. And I think it's just been successful every time that I've done it. And along with my team and also African Student Association in which we collaborated with because again like it's just months and months and months of hard work and you're dealing with other people's schedules and you're dealing with all these other things. Clothes don't fit, there's wardrobe malfunctions, and I think us as a team we really like stood in the moment and we were like this was it, like we're proud of ourselves. So I think it's just always been something that's been really it's been really stressful but fun to put on.
I'm glad you're proud of that. What advice would you give to other students who want to be leaders, who want to make a meaningful impact, either with Suffolk or just in their future careers?
Yeah, one thing that I'm telling like the e-board now and the e-board that's eventually going to come in is don't compare yourself to me. Don't compare yourself to another person who's been in the same spot in which you want to go to, because I know that I'm not going to do some of the things that somebody else is going to do. Nor do I expect the next president of BSU to do the things that I've done, not in a derogatory way or in a negative way. It's more so it's like she might or they might do something that is like something completely different and completely innovative in their own way. So I think especially for students that are coming in leadership positions, it's don't compare yourself to the person that was before you. Don't be like, oh, I'm not doing as much as them. I should do more. I should just do what you feel is right. Just do things that it makes sense for you in the moment. Because that's how I've gone about it. I've just very much like things that feel right in the moment, things that feel good. And they panned out pretty good. So I'm like, I have a great track record. But I think because of that, I've had conversations with e-board members. They're like, you've done so much. And I'm like, don't compare yourself to me because some of the things that I had to go through, you don't have to go through. You don't have to go through that like that trial and figure it out. You might have your own trials. You might need to figure those out themselves. So don't compare yourself to me and that I've done all this and a third when the things that you have to do and the things that you have to go through aren't here yet, you know? So I think that's something that I would tell students, especially students that are in leadership roles, is just, you know, don't compare yourself because I'm pretty sure the next SGA president is going to compare themselves to Clinton. And I'm like, Clinton has done so many things, but at the same time, like half of the stuff that Clinton has done, you might do the exact amount of things, but they might just be different, you know? So I would say don't compare yourself. I don't like that. I don't like to say like the cheesy, like, oh, thief is the comparison of joy. But
It
I'm
is.
but I'm like, in its essence, it is because like, you just might do some things, but it just might not be the same things. So don't compare yourself. I used to compare myself a lot when I was like younger, as like a lot of teenagers do, just like around. But then when I really realized, I was like, damn, that's boring. Let me make my own path. Let me do my own things my own way. It's usually got me in trouble with some people, but hey, I just like to do things my own way, you know?
I'm glad you figured that out. It's a life lesson that a lot of us have to learn. So, speaking about your younger self, if you could give your younger self advice, what would it be?
Oh, if I could give myself advice, I would say I would say like again, and this might sound really cheesy, but I think it really applies. And that the things that are meant to be are meant to be. I think especially when during like childhood and teenagehood, I fell into like that trap of like, oh, this person has this person has that. I don't have this, I don't have that. And whether that be, like through relationships or like the academic experiences. Like I know people that went to Harvard for undergrad and I was like, damn, you ate. I wish I was you, and it's just like things are meant to be the way that they're meant to be. I got accepted to other universities and Suffolk was just where I ended up because that was the way that it was meant to be, you know. So yeah, I would just say relax. Things are the way that they're meant to be because like you're very much like I need to rush this, I need to get into this, I need to do that, I need to do that. Um, things are very much the way that they're meant to be. And I think I'm also taking that lesson extremely like close to the heart, especially with grad school, applying and figuring out my next stages in life. Um, oh, that also reminds me, I have another thing. This was like a conversation that I had the other day. But yeah, so things are meant to be the way that they're meant to be. Also, one thing that I really realized, and one thing that I'm like, I'm probably going to take this like to the heart is I think these are the because I didn't do it when I first got into college, but like these are the times in which I can really make risks, you know? Um, especially like as a first generation like student, like immigrant families are so like obsessed with stability. Everything has to be stable. You get your first job, you stay with it forever. I was like, oh, you get it. Everything has to be like stability, stability, stability. I remember when I was in freshman year, my mom would be like, so what do you want to do? Stability, stability. You hold on to that and like you don't let go of it. So I got caught up in that. Like I need to figure everything out and just hold on to it and like get to that like, end goal. But I think these are the times in which I can really make risks in like going after that thing or doing that thing just cause, you know. I applied to grad programs. I didn't have a backup plan. And someone was like, "Why didn't you plan?" And I was like, "Well, I have the privilege of not like thinking right now. Like I don't have a job that's like literally funding my healthcare, funding my life. I'm just very much like I have part-time job, I'm a work study student, I live at home. Like these are the times in which I can apply for that thing and just be like, it's whatever. These are the times in which I can just like do that and then I can forget about it the next day. So I think right now the advice that I'm really taking on is like this is the time where I can just risk and apply for that thing and go for that thing without the repercussions. And in 10 years, when I have a job and it's giving me health care and benefits and everything like that, that's when it gets really hard to like apply for that thing and just go for it and just live life, in that aspect. But now it's like, I can just like do whatever. And I had the realization literally on Sunday where I was like, I could just do whatever, like in terms of like professionally I could just like I could literally apply to do anything. I mean, obviously within the bounds of my what I fit the criteria for, but I'm like, I could literally apply to whatever. So yeah, because someone was really like, "Oh, why did you apply to grad school with no backup plan?" So because I could just apply. I could apply and forget about it. I applied in November and I just forgot about it. I was like, it's out of my mind now because at the end of the day, it's not what like I'm young. I'm young and I'm turned. So yeah. Yeah, that's my advice that I'm taking now. Now as like as a younger adult. But then like the it is what it is applies to like past me. But now I'm very much like I could just do whatever. And that's a privilege. Not a lot of people have that privilege. So I'm very much stepping within that privilege and just saying I can take whatever risk I want to.
I'm glad that you recognize that, and I'm happy that you have that because at the end of the day, you have to be able to recognize what you have and use it because if you don't use it, what's the point, right? And then you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I did that and took that risk and you would never know, right? So now that you are doing that, you get to like, have all these experiences and Yeah, years to come, you will look back and say, hey, maybe that was the right thing. Maybe it wasn't. And even if it wasn't, you will still be able to say, I had that experience. So I'm glad. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you and having this conversation. Happy Black History Month.
Black History Month.